Welcome to My Views and News, Saturday's first video. Firstly, Annette Weber, EU Special Envoy to the Horn of Africa, who visited Ethiopia more than 2 weeks ago to resolve the ongoing conflict in northern Ethiopia, briefed EU member countries after returning from Ethiopia. And there she made four very important points in her briefing. Points like what is Sudan's role? Is it hosting Tigray fighters? What is Eritrean position on this war? And some other points. We have details for you. Second, viewers, Ethiopian federal government is pushing financial institutions to give financial support to Ethiopian National Defense Force. Meetings have been held. Ethiopian government officials have passed some directions to the financial institutions. How much money is being demanded from these institutions? Which institutions are the ones which are helping Ethiopian National Defense Force? I'm not talking about reconstruction and rehabilitation. I am talking about money for Ethiopian National Defense Force. And lastly, we have Somalia, where we know that around 2 weeks ago, federal and regional forces launched an operation against Al-Shabaab. Some villages were taken by government forces. A key road in Hiran region, which connects Beledweyne with another important town, was taken by government forces. But in the last 72 hours, Al-Shabaab has retaken some territories. A top commander, a Mogadishu police commander, has been killed as well in an attack. We have details for you of some places retaken by Al-Shabaab, and peacefully government forces have just pulled out of these villages. Firstly, viewers, Annette Weber, EU Special Envoy, along with other Western diplomats, Mike Hammer, US Special Envoy, and representative of UN, visited Ethiopia around 2 weeks ago. She held meetings with Damaki Mekonnen, Deputy Prime Minister, and she called Tigray leadership as well by phone. She was in touch with Tigray leadership too, and the delegation visited Mekelle before the start of the third round of fighting in August. Now, she has briefed EU member states about her visit. What is happening in this conflict? What did she learn? Firstly, she mentioned in her briefing that Sudan was hosting Tigray fighters. Sudan was arming Tigray fighters. Flights carrying weapons from Sudan to Tigray were confirmed by Annette Weber, you can say. And almost the same we have been reporting. Before Annette Weber's visit, we have been reporting all these things. So it has been confirmed. EU special representative is confirming. Obviously, she has lots of sources. Secondly, she mentions the formation of a broad mediation panel. She says a broad mediation panel is in the making. It was being negotiated. Talks were underway between the players for the formation of a broad mediation panel, which would be a 3-member panel. Olusegun Obasanjo of African Union, Uhuru Kenyatta, former president of Kenya, and a female member from South Africa, could be a politician. This 3-member mediation panel was being considered. Consensus is being developed for the formation of this 3-member panel for mediation. Thirdly, she talked about Eritrea, that Eritrean military was deployed in border areas, shelling was being carried out, and airstrikes as well. She says in her briefing that Eritrea was conducting airstrikes on Tigray territories. She said that Eritrean involvement was to the extent of shelling and airstrikes, and it was more than 2 weeks ago when she prepared this briefing. Lastly, she said that uncompromising position of Eritrea was a hindrance to peaceful solution of the conflict. Why? Eritrean position is that TPLF is an existential threat for Eritrea. It should be wiped out. Perhaps it's not a secret for anyone who knows a little about Horn of Africa, about Tigray, Ethiopia, Eritrea relations. She is confirming what we have been talking about, that Eritrea is fully convinced that TPLF must be wiped out once and for all. So, very important points, some revelations made by Annette Weber. Now, can there be consensus for this three-member mediation panel? That remains to be seen. Yes, Eritrean position is still the same. Sudan is hosting Tigray fighters, though that front has gone quiet now. Regrouping is underway there reportedly. So, in coming days, when Tigray could once again go on the offensive, if it happened, you could see that front being activated again. Secondly, viewers, Ethiopian government is pushing financial institutions to allocate funds for Ethiopian National Defense Force. Heads of financial institutions are being pressed by the federal government to give 2% of their net annual profits. Who are these heads of financial institutions? Heads of banks, insurance companies, and other financial institutions are being contacted by the federal government. Ethiopian Banking Association is a lobbying group which works for the interests of Ethiopian bankers. It stays in touch with the government, and government is contacting heads of financial institutions through Ethiopian Banking Association. Ethiopian banking industry is growing very fast. In recent months, you must have noticed that new banks have been established. Why? Because banking industry is growing. 50 billion Ethiopian birrs were earned by this industry in the last year, which shows that it's a rapidly growing industry. That is why government wants this industry, banking industry, insurance companies to contribute for the war ongoing in northern Ethiopia. Not for reconstruction or rehabilitation, no. Mainly for Ethiopian National Defense Force, for the purchase of weapons, for the mobilization of END, for other logistical needs. Reportedly, government is aiming to collect 800 million birrs from these financial institutions for Ethiopian National Defense Force. And government has already received around 200 million this year. Last year as well, these financial institutions contributed for the war, and once again government is pressing the organizations, the banks, insurance companies to contribute money. So you see that this war will eat up Ethiopian economy. Of course, if banks are contributing, they will earn. From where will they earn? They are in Ethiopia, they are operating in Ethiopia. Ethiopians will have to pay to these banks through different means. So it is basically money of Ethiopian people. Ethiopian people's money are being diverted to this war, which should be spent on development, on feeding the people, on feeding the hungry. That is why peaceful solution is in the interest of all parties to this conflict. Ethiopian federal government, Tigray regional government. Otherwise, all will suffer. Gradually, you will see that the parties will come under more pressure. Ethiopian government will face economic pressure. Tigray will definitely run out of fuel, run out of food which it has in stores. So Tigray will be forced to make compromises in coming weeks or months, and Ethiopian federal government as well. So far, all parties think that they have a chance to defeat the other party. That is why war is continuing. Lastly, we have Somalia, where around 2 weeks ago, government forces, federal and regional, launched a military operation against Al-Shabaab. Government forces made some territorial gains in Heran, Gulmudug region, but now Al-Shabaab is hitting back. It has retaken some territories. Yesterday, I reported the death of Farhan Karole, Mogadishu police commander, killed in an ID explosion. A day before that, Ilmi Hagar, a local elder, was targeted by Al-Shabaab fighters. Government forces had managed to clear Baldwin Road, Baldwin Bolo Barde Road in Heran region, one of the main roads. But Al-Shabaab is now taking back villages, towns close to this road. Moqokari was taken by government forces a few days ago, but yesterday Al-Shabaab fighters re-entered Moqokari, and peacefully. Why? Because government troops pulled out of Moqokari. Same is the case with Yasoman in Heran, retaken by Al-Shabaab fighters peacefully, no resistance. Government forces just pulled out. And yesterday I reported about Boko, again in Heran. Boko was retaken by Al-Shabaab fighters. They shared pictures, videos, and once again they are sharing pictures, videos from Moqokari as well. So you see that Al-Shabaab fighters are hitting back. Government forces are retreating without fighting in some areas. In some areas, fighting is ongoing. Overall, morale is an issue. Farhan Karole's death, Ilmi Hagar's death will definitely hurt the morale of government forces. You need command, you need a commander which can lead this operation. A commander who can lead this operation and who can lead from the front and who can unite all the forces, regional, federal forces. I have been saying this unity of command is missing. Somalia needs this unity of command to counter Al-Shabaab. Otherwise, these regional federal forces operating under their different commands, it would be difficult for them to strike a decisive blow to Al-Shabaab. Thank you for watching.